In this video, we're going to talk about estimating shingles, the roofing shingles on this particular house, on this model. We're still working on this one. We haven't done our ridge vents and so forth in here yet, and ridge caps. I just wanted to show you how we can simply estimate the quantity of shingles and associated costs with that just by using the materials tab in Estimator. So let's look at a scene that has just the shingles on it, just to make things a little bit easier to see. It's a pretty cut up roof, pretty complicated, but you'll see that we actually use the texture on the underside of sheathing. So if I look at this, check out this material here, you'll see I've got a material that I created. I just used the OSB texture that came with SketchUp, but I created my own texture and called it OSB roof sheathing, and I have one for OSB wall sheathing as well. So in this case, to not get too complicated with multiple layers here, this particular roof or the sheathing here has the thickness of a ½ inch, but I used the texture of shingles on the top half and the texture of the OSB roof sheathing on the bottom half. Again, if I was to look at this material here, you can see it says asphalt 18 in here. Okay, so if I picked on any one of these, or I picked on this whole thing in a group, you'll see that that entire roof is coming up north of $17,000. And if I look over here into my cost, I've got quite a few things going on with that. I'm going to start out at the beginning. The first thing I did was I created using the, if I look in here to the materials that I have available to me, I've got the OSB roof sheathing, I have the asphalt 18, I've got some other textures in here that must be on some edges, but I'm not concerned with those. I'm really just looking at the roof sheathing, which is the underside, and the asphalt 18, which is the top side. Alright, so if I was to look at the sheathing, for example, I've got a couple of associated costs going on here. The first thing I have is I chose the cost code of framing materials. And again, these cost codes can be your own proprietary cost codes. In this case, it's NEHB's cost codes, and I chose that to go under framing materials. I gave it a description of 7/16 OSB. I have my vendor. I used the square feet, and I divided by 32 for a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of OSB. At this case, it's current unit rate, $744 each. I put a 25% waste factor in there. This is a pretty cut up roof, and I'm figuring just the areas here, and we've got a lot of waste to take into account. And then a 5.3% sales tax. And then I added, by clicking add associated costs, I used the same square feet of the OSB sheathing cost code of framing materials for the underlayment that would go on top of that OSB. So I don't have to physically model that. I can add these associated costs. In this case, I'm using the square feet divided by 1,000 because there's 1,000 square feet of coverage in one roll, and it's $142 a roll for the synthetic underlayment. 5% waste and 5.3% sales tax. These waste factors can be anything you want to give it, from personal experience or what have you. And as you're going, you'll see these subtotals up here. So you can see that I've got 203 sheets of OSB at how much? I've got 6 rolls of the titanium underlayment. I've got 6 each boxes of these gun nails, and again, I just used the square footage. Came up with a multiplier that worked in my workflow of how many boxes it took to install sheathing, how much per box, and the units displayed, and sales tax. So I have the boxes and nails that it takes to apply to that. Now that's taking it to extreme. Some people may not need, but Estimator gives us the ability to add as many associated costs as we wish. One more, I've got the staples, the button cap staples that we're applying that underlayment with, and a multiplier that I came up with from studying how many boxes of these different types of fasteners that we needed and related it to the number of sheets or number of rolls, for example. So that's everything that's associated with roof sheathing. If I then click on asphalt 18, you can see I've got roofing labor. Let's go back to the beginning. I've got, I'm using my roofing materials. I've got shingles as a description, my vendor. I'm using the square feet, and I'm dividing by 100 because I want to see how many squares of shingles that I need for this roof, and a square is 100 square feet. A unit rate of $90 per square, a waste factor at 10%, which could be a little bit low. and sales tax of 5.3%. Then I've added another associated cost by clicking the button here for my labor, roofing labor, and put my vendor in and use the square feet. Again, I pay him by the square, and then enter, there's no sales tax on labor, so let's take that out. In fact, let's change this to 15% and save those changes. Let's go back, because I wasn't happy with that 10%, and we'll save the changes. Okay. So now we can see how that's resulted a change in the price. So now if we wanted to see how much that is, we just go to our reports, and then we can see everything that's associated with those shingles just by simply using materials and painting one half of it with one texture and one half with the other texture, the bottom side. So we can see we got our framing materials and all of our roofing all tidied up. So that's an example of how to use materials to calculate roofing quantities. Thank you for watching.